This video is inside my YZ250. What's up, Internet? Welcome back to the channel. Today is Saturday, May 2nd. Tomorrow, the motocross track is opening for the first time since the whole COVID lockdown, stay at home, save a life deal, right? Now they're doing a lot of special things to make sure that the participation level is low and split up and people are able to socially distance while they open the track up for business and people get to ride and practice. So as I was prepping my bike for tomorrow, it occurred to me I've never done an inside view of my motorcycle. So this video is inside my YZ250. This bike is easily, far and away the most heavily modified bike I've ever had, street or dirt. So let's start with my ASV Unbreakable levers, man. These things are worth their weight in gold, which actually isn't that much because they don't weigh that much. But a must-have in my opinion, because at least with the motocross and dirt bikes, you're gonna crash. You're gonna have like little tip overs often, frequently, especially if you're riding a lot. And the stock levers, they're only gonna last so long. Okay, of course, we've got a aftermarket exhaust. Always one of the first things, at least I do, on any motorcycle, street or dirt. There's the lovely FMF Shorty canister. Next, full Hinson Clutch, not just a pretty cover. Underneath this cover, we have a Hinson basket, the Hinson inner hub, and a Hinson pressure plate. And I think I actually went with different friction and drive plates the last time I replaced them. But it looks gorgeous. Next up, foot pegs. I actually broke the stock foot pegs while I was riding. It was kind of sketchy because you go to put your foot down and you know part of the peg was missing, so it's like my foot just went right past the peg. I was like, what the heck? And then I thought, while I was riding, I thought it was just me, and I just like misplaced my foot, and then it happened again, so then I had to pull over, and it was like, I actually broke the foot peg. So these are much wider, thicker, sturdier. They've got some really spiky points here to get some traction on your foot so that you don't slip off. I love them. They're absolutely awesome. Back here. This is an aftermarket aluminum guard. I actually broke the stock plastic guard, so I figured why replace it with another stock plastic one. Let's just go ahead and move up to some kind of alloy. So got the aluminum one, and I love these little chain sliders. They're kind of a bling bling, but they're also marked a lot better than the stock ones, so really easy to set your wheel alignment. All right, moving to the other side of the bike. Eventually you have to replace your chain guard. They just wear out. They just wear out. The more you ride, the faster it's going to wear out. And these are pretty cool. I forget what the name of them are. I've been using them for many years. One thing that's cool about them is the chain rub plate inside is actually replaceable. So once you get the whole piece, you only have to replace this inner piece right here. You've got some bolts, and those pop out. And then you put a new one in, new bolts, you're good to go. For the gearing, I think the stock gearing on the YZ250 is just about perfect. I went up from a 50, which is the stock size, to a 51, just to give it just a little bit more pep coming off of the really slow 180s, and I think it works really well. One thing about me is I don't use first gear ever except for in the pits. Even when I'm racing, off of the starting gate, I launch from second gear, and I hate using first gear anywhere on the track, and that's because no matter how experienced you are, at some point in the time of you riding, you're gonna hit neutral. Neutral is obviously between first and second, just like on any motorcycle. And if you're using first gear in some really slow, like hairpin turn or something, it's only a matter of time before you go to grab second, you lean over the handlebars, and you hit neutral instead of second, and that can be pretty bad. I actually crashed once like that. I actually went over the handlebars, and in the fall I sprained my thumb. I couldn't ride for 2 to 3 weeks. It was horrible. And that was back during a time when I was riding 2-3 times a week and I was racing. And so to be able to not ride for 3 weeks at that point in my life, that sucked. Nowadays it wouldn't matter so much. I mean, I ride just like maybe once a month. But yeah, so I gear the bike so that I never have to use first gear, or I don't have to use tons of clutch coming off of a turn, unless it's like a really deep sandy turn. Then no matter what gearing you have, especially on a 2-stroke, you got to use some clutch. But yeah, so I went up to a 51 tooth in the back. You know, at some point I replaced my gear shifter with a hammerhead. I don't know why. I must have bent the other one, or I just love this blue bling, whatever. Love this little thing. This is a 9-ounce Steely flywheel weight. So every once in a while, I like to take the cover off, and there's some set screws here, and then another one, I think 180 degrees apart. And I just like to take the cover off and just make sure that those set screws stay tight so that this guy doesn't spin off. And you know, you might be asking, why do I have a flywheel weight? So being a 2-stroke, the power bands are very narrow. When you enter the power band, it hits hard, it hits fast. The flywheel weight kind of helps to make the power a little bit more manageable. Woo! So that you're not breaking the rear wheel loose and you're actually driving the bike forward. I think it helps a little bit. It's not super noticeable, but it does make a difference. Okay, on to my most favorite upgrade of all. I took the cylinder and the head and I sent that off to Pro Circuit and had it ported and polished and machined for pump gas. I didn't want to deal with the extra expense of race gas and the availability of race gas. So I had them do the machining and porting, and I think they decked the head a little bit, but it still runs on pump gas. So that's a good thing. I think aftermarket radiators are a good thing. I didn't really get mine until I broke mine, but if you're riding and racing a lot, it's only a matter of time. All right, something that's hard to see. Let me move this fuel line. Whoa. So we've got VForce reed valves. Reed valves, kind of like the exhaust, they're a simple bolt-on, and when you combine reed valves, aftermarket reed valves with an aftermarket exhaust, it really goes a long way to just kind of smooth the power and increase the power all at the same time. You definitely have to richen up your jetting in the carburetor when you put an aftermarket exhaust on. And you know, that brings me to another point. I just talked about the Pro Circuit cylinder and head modifications, and let me tell you what, between the pipe and the internal engine mods, I'm almost running sea-level jetting, and we're at, in Colorado Springs, we're almost at 7,000 feet altitude. I think it's 6,600 feet, something like that. So the fact that I'm running close to sea-level jets means, you know, that's a good indication of how much more the engine is breathing. That's pretty cool. I think last but not least, the braking rotor. So I got an oversized braking rotor, Gaffler, and then I got a steel braided brake line. At one point, these bolts came loose and the brake line slipped down a little bit, and it's kind of hard to tell, but you can see the housing tore up because it was actually rubbing against the disc rotor while I was riding. That was a bit sketchy. That could have been way worse. I have no modifications on the suspension. It's completely stock, but the Yamaha Triple S suspension is considered some of the best stock suspension you can buy. As far as stock suspension, it's as close as you can get. And this is many people's opinion, not just me talking. If you read enough reviews and articles and bike reviews, etc., everybody, all the test riders agree, Yamaha's Triple S conventional spring forks and shock are the best in the business. So I just adjust them and do regular service, seals and oil, shims replacement, O-rings, stuff like that, and just move the clickers around to a point where I'm comfortable, and that's it. The suspension is bone stock. Yamaha hasn't done any major updates to the bike in a very, very long time. So this is a 2011 edition, and since then, they've They fixed the foot pegs. They've put bigger, stronger foot pegs on after I broke mine. I forget what year they did that in. It was not too long ago, a few years ago, maybe 2017, 2016. They finally put an oversized rotor. One of the first things I noticed about the bike when I bought it brand new was the brakes they're just complete garbage. So that was a quick upgrade, was the oversized brake rotor, and it made a huge difference. I would say the oversized brake rotor and the Pro Circuit internal engine mods, easily the biggest improvements to the bike. If I did nothing else, just those two improvements, I'd be very, very happy. And then the Steely flywheel weight, and then of course the exhaust and the reeds just kind of like just tie everything together, if you will. So Yamaha, what has Yamaha done? They put bigger, beefier foot pegs on the bike. They put an oversized brake rotor on it. I think they did that just like last year, 2018, 2019, very, very recent change. They've done a few small things. They've got new body work, which I will admit looks a lot sharper than what's on this bike. And it should all bolt on, so I could order body work for the newer version and it should just bolt onto this one. What else have they done? They did upgrade the suspension. They put a newer version of the Triple S suspension, I believe back in 2015. It basically just took the suspension off of the more modern 4-strokes and stuck it on this one. I think they did that in 2015. They've just done lots of little things. At the end of the day, it's the same frame, it's the same engine. They've just been tweaking it a little bit. Like I said, pegs and brakes and stuff like that. So, I mean, for real, the bike hasn't really had any major changes since I think 2006. But people are still buying them, so there must be something to it, because they keep selling them. They haven't stopped production, and that's a good thing, because I love them. I should be watching this video on Monday, and the footage that I get from tomorrow's ride, I should have that out on Wednesday. And I'm planning on releasing some internal analytics on my YouTube channel. I've been kind of running some experiments for the last 4 months. So I did two things. I increased the number of videos I released every week, and I stopped using tags in my videos. And you know, it's always hard to say because there's so many other external factors that can change you know, the results of your analytics over, you know, a month's period of time. So but I think I'm going to do that video this coming Friday. So that's the week. This video on Monday, motocross footage from the track tomorrow, out on Wednesday, and then I'm pretty sure Friday's video is going to be analytics. So if you're another YouTube creator, I think you'll find some of it pretty interesting. I did notice some drastic differences with the two things that I changed: the number of videos a week and not using tags. So stay tuned, man. Stay tuned for that. Keep the rubber side down, and hopefully we'll get some really good footage tomorrow for you guys to see on Wednesday. And if you like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. Share the video. Give me that big thumbs up. And keep the rubber side down. We'll talk to you guys in the next video. Bye.
Woo! That felt good. Yeah.